Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today on the show, I am thrilled to welcome a true Hollywood veteran, actor, storyteller, and possibly the only man alive who's been in more movies than popcorn. With a career spanning over 6 decades from cult classics to blockbuster hits, the king of the cult classic, the master of the memorable cameos, and yes, Ron Howard's cooler brother. Please welcome the one, the only Clint Howard. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good, Alex. Thank you. That was one heck of an introduction. I appreciate it. Listen, I love my brother, and people say, "Oh, you're the cooler brother." Well, as long as I'm not in the deep freeze, I'm okay.
Yeah, no, it's awesome just that like that family dynamic to have such like an older brother with such a stellar career and as well as you as well as your dad. You don't get that too much, that too often. And talking about that intro, that took me almost 2 months to actually get down packed. So there you go. I'm not an actor. It's not my nature, man.
Well, listen, you did it well. And let me let you know a little secret. If you needed to, you probably could have done it again. No, listen, the Howard family. Certainly, there are other families that have worked in the business.
Mhm.
There are other legacies. But what Ron and I have done, uniquely, what Ron did was extremely unique. And what I've done is unique. I was a little boy. I got hired to play this weird alien in
Star
Star Trek,
Trek, yeah.
and then to have gone ahead and done a bunch of those Star Treks. And as well as other things, and then a lot of the cult movies, the little nitty-gritty ones, and then the big ones, the fun ones, Austin Powers, of course, Waterboy, and the little obscure ones. And I've had a blast doing them all, like, Ticks, for
Yep.
instance. And I must say this, it's kind of a joke. I'm not talking about ticks, the memory gland. I'm talking about ticks, the insect. Um, it's a wild career. It's a
Yeah.
wild career. Anybody that can have a career like mine and include scenes like a man with a tick blowing out of his face.
Yep.
And right before it blows out of my face, I'm infested. So
Exactly.
anyway, I again, with a little distance
Mhm.
between my starting line, which was 1961. The first time I had a professional job was 1961. I've got some distance between now and then, and then and now. I just, it is amazing. And I'm so grateful to God, to the movie gods, to the big God, to my mom and dad,
Yeah.
to my big brother. Now, currently, my wife has just been a huge, huge influence on me. Kat is in the last, we've been married now for 5 years, and I've known her for 7 years. I've known her longer than that, but anyway, I'm blessed. I'm friggin' blessed, Alex, and I don't know what to say
That's
except thank
awesome,
God.
man. And she seems like a cool person. I remember when she texted me because when we were supposed to do the interview, she's like, "Hey, uh, Clint just got bit by a spider." I'm like, "Holy shit, is he gonna turn into Spider-Man? What is happening here?" And she's like, "And yeah," and she's like, "He has to go to the ER." And I go, "Hey, I understand that completely." So
It
yeah.
was really weird. It was really weird. The thing's just about dissipated, but
Mhm.
I got bit, started feeling a little funny, looked down, and I had a red dot, a
Okay.
red pinprick kind of, wound right
Mhm.
there. And then this really weird circular kind of bruise around
Oh shit.
the the puncture wound happened. And it's a telltale sign of getting bit by a black widow. And yeah, I was sick for a little while. I listen, once I had to lay low. It
Mhm.
wasn't something I didn't think was going to kill me, but it was like, okay, shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
It was
definitely.
like the one time I got COVID.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna survive this. It's just like it's like a flu.
Yeah, just a really bad case of flu. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the question I had for you was you how old were you when you first you were like what, like two already on set? So
Yeah.
so how does that work? And I was talking to my friend about this. I'm like, do you think, we get, Social Security and then we get, retirement benefits. What happens if you start early? Like, does your retirement move like for movie stars? Does it move to like younger because you've been working since you were two? I would guess, right? That would be some bullshit.
No,
No.
I just listen, I've been a tax-paying citizen for a long time, and Social Security's, pretty healthy. I mean, it's not ridiculous. My Screen Actors Guild pension is not ridiculous, but it's healthy.
It's there.
My dad had a pension, my mom had a pension, and when you get to be my age, you start to collect it.
Yep. There you
So, but it is, yeah, no, I mean, listen, I worked in the business for well, over 60 years, 62 years before I could collect a pension. Most people put in 20.
go. Yeah.
You got to realize it's been in December, it will be 64 years. I will have been a professional actor.
Wow. And that, you know what, that itself, the longevity of your career and you're still doing it is impressive. Not a lot of people can do that or can withstand that, um especially, everything that's going on and stuff. So, that just shows the talent you have and just you're the guy that if you haven't seen him in the movie and you're like, hey, wait, hey, look, that's that's Clint Howard. There he is. You're
Alex, there's a pretty simple explanation for that. First of all, mom and dad, Rance and Gene Howard, instilled in both me and my brother some fundamentals about life and about how to conduct business, how to conduct yourself. They were very conservative people. And I'm not saying politically. I just meant just
just
they
in
came from the Depression, and they were just very conservative, and work hard, save your money, and then the little extra special show business tips or gifts. Excuse me one second, Alex. Yeah, babe.
no problem.
Cholo pissed on the big dog's bed. Excuse me a second. I've got to sort this out. Baby, I
Go
don't know
ahead.
what to do. I took his bed out.
Oh,
Here's
there he
Cholo.
is. Oh,
There's Cholo. Say hi, Cholo.
Cholo's cute.
Oh, Cholo's a champion. Cholo's one of those Aztec dogs. Cholo, Cholo's wonderful. Cholo's a boy. Cholo has a girlfriend
Oh, look at him.
named named Dolce, and Dolce is
Oh,
a little hairless teacup Chihuahua. And
gotcha.
I don't know. He may have gotten. I'm not going to get too anatomically correct on this, but Cholo may have gotten a little big for Dolce. I mean, we'll end it there. This is not a vet podcast.
So you said so his girlfriend's hairless, so
Yeah, well, and he doesn't have a lot of hair,
oh,
and
there we go.
neither does the dad. Now, anyway, there's a simple work ethic that
Hmm.
goes for almost any job, which is you make sure that when you show up to work, you're prepared.
Yep.
One fundamental thing, this is very small, but Dad insisted on this, is that we always ate before we went to work. Now, even though in show business they like to serve you a breakfast when you
Hmm.
show up, and most actors and most crew members use that as an opportunity to show up to work and dick around for 20 or 30 minutes while they nibble on their breakfast burrito. And Dad simply that's not acceptable to him. You show up to work ready to work.
Yep.
If you don't have time to make yourself a little oatmeal and make yourself a couple of eggs before you go to work, then you're not doing your job right. And so being prepared, and then when we were kids, it was you know we knew, and it wasn't a badge of honor or anything, it was just a fact. We were children working in an adult situation. We were working alongside of adults with the simple requirement is we have to behave like adults, we have to focus like adults, and we have to put in a good hard day's work
Yep.
you know now, nobody was Dad made sure nobody was a slave driver, Ron and I were never mistreated on a set.
Awesome.
Never. I'll do one little plug for people that want to kind of get into the weeds. My brother and I wrote a book
Book, yeah.
called The Boys, a memoir of Hollywood and family. It was a HarperCollins book, and it was released a few years ago. And it's available both, hardcover, paperback, and on audio. And it really goes into detail our journey as children in the business. It was a memoir of us as kids. And of
Gotcha.
course, I don't remember, Alex, when I started acting. My memories, my memories of really being on a set didn't really start until I don't have a memory until I was about 5 or 6.
Okay.
And that means that I had worked for 3 or 4 years in the business and I just don't remember.
Remember. Gotcha. which
Yeah.
is which is wild, which is wild. And I will put I'll get the link and stuff so I can put it inside on the info on the bottom so people can click it and definitely
Cool.
check that book out because that is something that like you said when we talked on the phone earlier, that you can go hours talking about just the show business and stuff like that and how you're
Yeah, and the book by design, the 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 chronological life of the book is really us as children.
Mhm.
And us and I, it ends for me when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And so, but shit, I've had what, 40 some odd years of successful show business life after I stopped. I've got another book in me.
Yeah.
I've got a book talking about all these little crusty horror movies and all these fun little crazy things and all the things that I've learned over the years. Here's one thing that, you know, uh, I could certainly teach acting. I mean, my experiences and I have an opinion on what makes a good actor.
Absolutely.
But the one thing that no acting school ever brushes up against is just how horrible the conditions are a lot of times when you're required to perform as a professional actor, whether it's really cold or whether it's really hot
Hmm.
or whether the food's been really crummy and or it's really late at night and you've been working all day and you've had, 10 cups of just really horrific coffee and you've got your coworkers are pissy and the crew is bickering and the director's an a-hole and there's some
There's a lot that goes into it.
yeah, and acting schools are all nice and everybody's got a nice clean shirt on and
Yeah.
nobody smells. Try acting when you've been friggin' out in the friggin' Everglades for
Yep.
12 hours, getting bit by mosquitoes,
Uh,
and you're forced to, perform a sensitive scene when really all you want to do is just, go somewhere and splash some water on your face and take a dump.
And I think a lot of people kind of oversee when they look at a movie, right? They see the movie and like how we were talking about, you were talking about Waterboy. Like I don't think people understand like yeah, he was in the movie, like he's probably was on set the whole time and you said you shot that movie within like 2 days, of your scenes and you're out. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't understand that or a lot of people just I like the meat of it, like the behind the scenes. That's what interests me. The stories, the situations. That's what I like. What drives me to want to know more about that industry, Because a lot of people say, you know,
If I was running an acting school, what I would do is I would get an old broken down van and I would make the student actors sit around for a while and drink some crummy coffee. And at about 10 o'clock at night, I'd pile them all into this crummy van and drive them to some building, take them up the elevator and have them get on the roof of the building
hmm
and do their scenes with the wind blowing about 20 miles an hour and it being cold and there's somebody going, we really got to shoot, it's time to shoot, we got to get this and go home, hurry now be good, now be good.
uh-huh.
So anyway, I would make sure that would be a field trip of my acting school.
As just to put them in the most uncomfortable situations, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Like I said, the camera work and everyone happy on set, and when the movie comes out, it's could be a completely different experience working, correct?
Well, yeah, and also this is on me because I
Mhm.
know there are lots of actors that can go to the cinema and enjoy themselves and get lost in the story, and I'm just not that way. When in it really irritates my wife, Kat wants to sit there and enjoy the movie and enjoy the story and follow along. And what I'm looking at is the lighting, and I can see whether I can see what time of day the scene was being filmed in. Or also I can tell, oh, this was a scene that was shot very early in the production because look, everybody looks fresh.
Ah, that's crazy. Wow.
And then I can look at also a scene and go, man, this must have been at the very end because this guy looks like he needs to take a nap.
Interesting perspective.
I just, and that's, and it really it pisses her off, you know.
Yeah.
Also another thing that I get into, and this is kind of fun, and actually Kat and I and our daughter Rafi, because our daughter's she's a fledgling actress. She's
Okay.
a great gal. She plays music. She's in a couple of bands. She plays guitar. She plays bass. She plays drums. And she's got a couple of rock and roll bands, and she dances, and she's really a Renaissance young woman. But she's also doing some acting. She's involved in this great acting school, and uh, we'll watch a movie, and I'll go, "This was the guy's audition scene," because I can tell, a character, there's lots of characters in the movie, and most of them had to audition.
Hmm.
Most of them have a scene. They're like their one highlight scene, and it's the scene that the casting director and the directors want the actors to take a go at.
Yeah.
And I'll nudge Kat and I go, I guarantee this is his audition scene. Excuse me 1 second. Shut up! They don't listen to me.
Neither do my kids. Don't worry. I'm surprised. I have the door locked, but if you hear any banging, I promise they're not in the closet or anything. They're trying to get in. So it happens like that
But
all
they're
the
trying to get in and not get out.
exactly. And then they'll hang out, and like I said, it's always something with them. It's kind of funny, but that's interesting though, the way you put it, where how you watch movies and stuff compare to your wife and stuff that just wants to, just she just wants to enjoy it, and you're just kind of like, is it something that you can't? It's something that you can't help it, right?
Oh, there's been times.
Mhm.
There are movies that I've been taken by.
Mhm.
There are movies. I mean, listen, storytelling is wonderful. I mean, people have been telling stories as long as there's been people. Campfire, sitting around a campfire, telling, kids stories. That's all we're doing is telling stories using great tools.
Yep.
Uh, so that's what we do. And I get lost in the story once in a while.
Mhm.
But also, you know, it's I'm used to it. That's the way I'm used to seeing dailies.
Mhm.
I'm used to seeing a lot of raw footage. And I'm used to kind of in my mind doing a little reverse engineering and go, God, I wonder what it was like. This guy's, or scenes on horses, scenes on horseback, or scenes in cars.
Mhm.
It's really easy for me to quickly figure out, well, were they really driving?
Driving
Or
or
was this a camera truck? Or, once in a while, you rear screen projection. And now with animation the way it is with CGI, shit, like, I'm sorry, I'll let the fans in a little secret. You know how they make a big deal about saying Tom Cruise does his own stunts?
Mhm.
Well, yeah, Tom Cruise probably jumps off that Apple box, you know,
Mhm.
and they would call that a stunt. Tom Cruise is not going to sit on a motorcycle and rev that motorcycle's engine and drive it off a cliff and then, pull his parachute and glide to safety. They're just not going to let that happen. Let's all call time out and just go, yeah, he was the guy that fell into the mat.
Yeah.
That's a stunt. Falling into a mat is a stunt. So yeah, in that regard, they're not lying by saying he does all his own stunts. It's just he's not the guy that hurls himself off the suspension bridge and glides to a landing safely.
He's the one falling on the mat.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's funny, you talking about that because I feel like with all the practical effects back in like the 80s compared to all the CGI stuff now, like it just I feel like actors might have had it a little bit, I guess not harder, but how do I put it into words where it's you kind of had to go for that scene compared to now where everything is just kind of ingrained into CGI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What has CGI done? First of all, there's been tricks done
Mm,
in cinema since they created talkies,
mm.
since they were able to put sound into people's mouths and then or replace somebody's dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, replacing dialogue is, it's not that difficult to go into a sound studio and redo somebody's dialogue. So that's not him talking.
Hmm.
That's another person talking, and they've looped it. Rear screen projection. Man, King Kong swinging off the Empire State Building in the one with Fay Ray back in the 20s. People have been doing magic tricks with show business for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've been involved. I know it's magic tricks.
Yeah.
Let me tell a little story because
Go ahead.
it involves about understanding the magic of show business, of films and television.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Is I did an episode of Bonanza when it was I think either 1965 or 1966. I was a little guy. I was about 6 years old. I had a great part. It was the lead role in a Christmas episode of Bonanza. And in this episode, my character's father accidentally got shot and was in a coma. And as a little boy, I was just, stricken with fear and emotion. And this old wise Indian that worked for my father on the farm, on the ranch, came up to me and told me there's only one person that can save your father, and
God,
that's
gotta
God.
look for. Yep, I
So
remember that.
all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I jump on this as a little boy. I jump on this
Oh,
mule and go up into the mountains. And I end up meeting God, although he's not really God. He's Leif Erikson, who was a guy that was on the lam from the federal government. He had killed some people and he was hiding out and he was up in the mountains and he looked like God. He had long white beard. And when I saw him, I thought he was God. Now, of course, Little Joe and Hoss knew he wasn't God. He was this man on the lam with a gun and a drinking problem. Um, and anyway, at the very end of the movie, they end up converging. They converge on this guy, and there's a shootout, and I'm in jeopardy. And this Indian sneaks up behind and throws a knife and hits Leif Erikson in the back and drops down and kills him. And I run up you killed God. They had to explain to me that no, he's not God. He was just a guy that was looking at serving frigging, being hung at Leavenworth. Uh, but anyway, here I was, a little boy, getting to see the magic trick of knifing a guy in the back. They taped a small, thin wooden board to his back.
Mhm.
And the prop man carefully jammed that knife into that board that was taped to his back. So now the guy's walking around looking like he's got a knife in his back. And they add the makeup guy adds blood and then, of course, Leif Erikson was a great actor. He played it great. He had a great dying scene, but it was magic. I got to watch, after the scene, after the director yelled, "Print it, that's great." Leif Erikson gets on his feet, the prop man takes off the appliance and the knife comes out and he goes to have lunch. So it's just magic tricks, man.
Nice, nice. Well, talk about magic tricks, man. Let's talk about a couple of these films that you're in. I mean, we could spend all day on them, so I just broke it down into a few of them that I thought were going to be really good and fun to talk about. Let's talk about the movie Ticks. I'm infected, right? Let's talk about that. Ticks has become a cult classic. Were you surprised by its lasting popularity?
Well, no, with any kind of retrospect, no, because
Mhm.
it was a classic, 80s, whatever. It wasn't in the 80s, it was in the 90s.
93, I think.
Yeah, but it
Yep.
was that era. It
Yep.
was the era of physical effects, not a lot of CG, probably no CG, you know. Uh, and here's the thing about Ticks. First of all, I knew the director. His guy's name was Tony Randall. He's a really nice guy. Guy named Brian Usna, who I've worked with numerous times. He was the guy that was responsible for the Reanimator movies. He
Okay.
was involved as one of the producers.
Gotcha.
And I auditioned for a role in the movie and didn't get it. So they went ahead and shot the movie. My dad's in the movie, Rance Howard.
Get the sheriff. Yep.
He plays the sheriff. Uh, so anyway, they finished the movie, and I knew they had finished because Dad had worked a few days, and how'd it go, Dad? Oh, yeah, they're doing good. They're working hard. They were filmed up in the mountains in Southern California.
Mhm.
Um, I get a call from my agent saying, they want to hire you in Ticks. And I go, well, the movie's done. No, they're doing some reshoots. They're redoing some stuff. And they have an idea and they want to use you. And I said, sure. So that character that I played in Ticks was invented after the movie was edited together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing because they had shot the movie and they in the original screenplay, they never saw the genesis of why the ticks got into the steroids and why were there steroids? Well, they invented this idea that this guy was growing weed
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere and ticks were getting into the frigging steroids that he was putting in the weed. And so they invented this guy and they went back one day and shot for one day. One complete day. And mostly it was at night and it was really cold. It was one of those days where it was really miserable. And the only saving grace for me is I had a lot of makeup on. Those that the appliance was frigging, full on. Probably the toughest makeup job that I've ever had done on me. I mean, of course, I worked on the Grinch, and
Mhm.
that was 3 hours a day. This was only one day, but it probably took me 4.5 hours to get into this makeup.
Wow.
And I shot all that stuff, and it was fun. And the larva landing on me and getting to play that. I remember it was fun because I step in a bear trap.
Yep.
And that's just, pain. There was just one thing after another that caused my character just a horrible, horrible amount of pain. And shot it. And, to this day, I go to horror conventions and pop conventions, and we have a great photo of me from Ticks. And, I'll always sign 4 or 5 of them at every convention, you know.
Nice.
So it's one of those things. And listen, as it turns out, I knew the director, Tony Randall, nice guy. He came from the Roger Corman world, and so we had that kind of kinship. Anybody who's worked for Roger, there's a special bond. Roger Corman was a special man, and he gave my brother his first directing job, and he gave friggin' Francis Coppola his first directing job, and of course Marty Scorsese, and
Big,
you know,
some big names, right? Just a little
I mean, the
bit.
best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
And and of course he screwed everybody. I mean, he underpaid everybody. Everybody has a story about how Roger Corman was cheap. Except on one hand, yeah, Roger Corman was a tightwad, but on the other hand, we love Roger because he gave us a chance. So anyway, so Tony Randall and like I said, Brian Usna, and it was a good movie to be a part of.
Definitely. So, were there any scenes in particular challenging or uncomfortable? Was it the just the makeup just being so heavy on you? Because how did they
Well,
had it where they when it exploded in the girl's face?
well, listen, there were two makeup artists, and I
Okay.
wish I could remember their names because they were really good.
Mhm.
The two makeup artists that worked on my face for a long, long time. and it all worked. They had like an air bladder. They put a bladder that they sort of glued to my face
Okay.
underneath the makeup so that when they could make it blow up so my cheek looked like it was exploding. And then the magic of editing.
Oh,
The thing about I'll tell you the thing for me as an actor about working on ticks. It was only one day. I knew it was one day. I can do anything for one day. And once you start rocking and rolling,
hmm.
yeah, I'm a member of the union and you get paid overtime and shoot, listen, I don't mind working 14 and 15-hour days. You know what 14 and 15-hour days means, Alex?
What?
A paycheck that's about twice as much as what you're expecting to get.
All right. Makes sense.
It's nice. It's
Nice.
nice. Meal penalty. When they'll be working so hard and they want to get things done and they'll just go past the time that they're required to give people a chance
Okay.
to have dinner. They
Uh-huh.
call it meal penalty. And I don't mind.
Mhm. Of
I
course.
think a meal penalty is like $100. Yeah, I'll take the $100 and I'll go hungry for a few minutes.
I'll be good because you
Yeah,
you ate you ate before. That's why.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You ate before. Nice. Very nice. Um, Talking about ticks, I mean, like I said, it's a cult classic. And then you have another one, right? Surprisingly, I just got back. Ice Cream Man just he was outside my house. There's no eyeballs in here, but they're pretty good, Clint. They're pretty good.
Yes. Hang on a second.
Oh, are you getting some ice cream too?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, you got the better ice cream. You got the good one. Perfect. That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is excellent.
Yeah, the makeup guy, Mark Garbarino, gave this to me years later. He had it. The director, Norman Epstein, originally had the original piece, and this was the backup. But
Okay.
the original piece got tore up so much when we were filming it that, and this one's still in pretty pristine shape. In fact, it, nothing has been nothing has been miraculous or anything happened in a while, but when our daughter was about 10 and her friends started coming over to the house and seeing this, one kid got really petrified. One kid ran outside and called his mom and said, "Mom, you got to come and pick me up. There's something terrible in the hallway." We had
That's
to explain,
awesome.
we had to explain to him that it was a prop and it's really not, but it's a really good job. Mark did a really good job.
No, he did excellent. Look at that. That is great. I love it.
Yeah,
They-
and Mark always says, I mean, look, this is actually David Naughton, and
Yep.
and I don't know, you see Dave, he's got real teeth, and he goes, "This is real human hair," which is kind of creepy, but human hair uh is a lot better than fake hair. But
Well,
anyway, that was a great experience. I was 35 years old or whatever it was, and it was 1993 when we shot it. Uh, and well, no, let's see. If it was 1993, I would have already been. I was in my early 40s,
okay.
and a wonderful experience. It was fun, and I didn't. Yeah, it was a little cheesy horror movie, but for whatever reason, it has become a cult classic. You're really going to eat that whole ice cream, aren't you?
You know what? I did not do what your dad did. I did not eat before the interview, so this shit is hitting the spot right now, Clint. I'm just saying.
Cool.
Um,
So anyway, listen, I can talk about details of working on that movie. It was a little low budget movie. A guy named Norman Epstein directed it. Um, it was fun to work on. Jan Michael Vincent and Lee Majors Jr., Olivia Hussey, and these kids were all, it was fun. And for about 4 weeks, I invented this really weird, twisted character, and we had fun. Now, it all these years later. And this is really my wife Kat has a lot to do with this. I mean, she really believes that there's a market for Ice Cream Man movie. And we are producing another Ice Cream Man. That's what it's called. And it's not a sequel. It's not a reboot. That character is dead.
Mhm.
It's another movie, it's another story about another Ice Cream Man. And
Awesome.
I'm playing the Ice Cream Man. We got a lot of great surprises. I don't want to name drop names, but I will let you know that, and I won't be too cute about this. My brother, I was in my brother's first directing job.
Hmm.
First time my brother directed a movie, I was in it. And we had this unspoken promise that when I get to direct my first movie, he's going to be in it.
That's
And by
awesome.
God, Ron is going to be in another Ice Cream Man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Now
And
let
he
me,
actually it's a really good role too. I
yeah.
mean, it's only going to take a few days to film, but it's a very important role. And I think the audiences are really going to love it.
I think we're going to be psyched about that. And if by any chance, Clint, you need an extra, you need someone to die, I will fly there. I will pay for my flight. You don't even have to pay me. I will be on set and even an extra, I will gladly give my service. Just letting you know, man, okay?
Yeah.
Keep me in mind.
Well, Alex, I certainly, it's going to be a very modest production in terms of cost. This is
Yeah,
not Heaven's Gate
there we go.
or the Blues Brothers, but there might be a spot for you. I can't promise that we're going to kill you.
Well, I could be an extra. I could get ice cream, whatever you want. I do it
Yeah.
for free. Look at that.
You
Go
look, I
hard.
listen, you just did your audition where you were eating ice cream. You
There
look
you go, man.
believable.
Come on. There it is.
Yeah. Well,
Perfect.
anyway, we're looking to shoot. We're in pre-production now.
Okay.
And, it's most people think it happens really fast, and it doesn't. It's a slow process, and there's
Okay.
legal matters and contracts and organization. And but we have a great script that we believe in, and we got a great cast that we believe in, and we're pushing forward. Me, Kat, and Norman Epstein
Okay.
are three people, the principals, and I've got a great guy that wants to be my cinematographer. I'm
Okay.
going to probably co-direct,
Sweet.
because I am 66 years old, and my role is a big important role,
Hmm.
and I'm probably going to need a little bit of a chance to take a breather.
Yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
need a little bit of a chance to have a little perspective. And there's nothing wrong with having, I mean, I don't feel weird about having a co-director, you
Hmm.
know, um, help in the editing room. It'll, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it, Alex.
There you go. Well, my question for you and the Ice Cream Man was, what first drew you to the script for the Ice Cream Man?
Gainful employment.
Good answer.
No, listen, I'm an actor,
Hmm.
and it's what I do. And
Yep.
and Dad taught, listen, I have an example of I did a movie called Evil Speak,
Yep.
1980. And, it's questionable content. Here's
Hmm.
a boy that gets possessed by the devil and ends up, killing people
Killing
and
people. Yeah.
cutting people's heads off and inciting evil to roam the earth. Um, and I read the script and I got offered the role and I talked to my dad about it. I go, Dad, this guy, this is weird stuff going on here, And Dad goes, son, if you don't take the job, somebody else will. This movie's going to get made.
Regardless. Yeah.
Now, do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to work? You're an actor. You didn't invent it. You're just being paid to play a role. So, with that, you know, I took the job, and it's just, hey, it's all make believe. It's all like cowboys and Indians. It's all like playing army when you're a kid, running around, pretending you're shooting people. I mean, no, um, I remember back in the 60s, in the early 60s, we used to play a lot of army when we were kids.
Yeah.
And nobody I ever played army with ran around and shot people up for real. It's just a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just make believe. Just movies are just make believe. Um, so anyway, you know, I I took that job, and there's really only one embarrassing job I ever turned down, and I'm humbled because it was such an idiotic, egotistical reason. Um, my career was going pretty good, and it was in the 90s, I believe. And I'd been working, and it may have been after Apollo 13. Anyway, I got a call, and this director that I knew, he had been a writer on Happy Days. He was going to direct a movie called The Flintstones with John Goodman and Rick Moranis. And they wanted me to play one of Fred and Barney's bowling buddies.
Mhm.
And it was only going to be a couple of weeks' work, and you know, it wasn't a retirement job. It wasn't a great role. And for some reason back then, arrogant, and I feel foolish about this. I got it in my head that I didn't want to be that guy walking around in one of those, Flintstone-esque, fur costumes, looking like one of Fred and Barney's bowling buddies. So I passed. And what an idiot. Because listen, if that would have if me being in the Flintstones with some good artwork, some good photos at autograph shows and, horror conventions or pop conventions, listen, I would have made a lot of money signing friggin' Flintstone stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just all so foolish. And it reminded me, don't be selective. Just take the job. Take the job. Be grateful that somebody's asking you for your social security number, so they're going to hire you and give you a paycheck. So again, I got an opportunity to read for Ice Cream Man, and I read. They loved me, and they offered me the job, and it was scale. At that time, it was probably $1,400 a week for 4 weeks. By the time you pay taxes, you're only making a few grand, but still, it was work, and I enjoyed it and had a great experience.
Were you given creative freedom to shape Gregory's personality, or was that kind of like tightly scripted?
Oh, well, there was indications in the script of what Gregory was like. I mean, it was, yeah, you do have to follow along with the material, but
Mhm.
I was given a lot of leeway, and it was written in the script that he had a gravelly voice. And I played with it for a few minutes, and going to set for the first day, I was rolling the dialogue around in my head on the way to the set driving,
Mhm.
and I started screaming. And the way I got that voice was just for about 15 or 20 minutes
Scream.
driving in the car. I'm not going to do it now. I'll blow out your friggin' meters, but just literally as loud as I could, I'd scream. So I'd show up to work every day I'd show up to work, and I just genuinely, I'd have this voice going. So then that developed into Gregory. And of course, Gregory was a kind of a kook. So I could lean on the kook stuff. And he wasn't very smart. He did get shot in the head. So you add all that stuff together, and listen, there's going to be some Easter eggs in another Ice Cream Man.
Mhm.
He's a completely different character, but in the spirit of the original movie, the new character, Craigie is his name.
Okay.
Craigie Brickle.
Nice.
He's gonna have a voice similar to the original guy.
Nice, nice. Now, what was the most discerning or fun scene you filmed in Ice Cream Man?
Oh God. I like doing the puppets with
Puppets,
the
the head.
two cops that had their heads cut off and they were on ice cream cones. And I was doing like a little show for the kitty, and some of those lame jokes. And Norman let me improvise a lot of that stuff. And I got to chew on that pretty good that night.
Um, what's your real life favorite ice cream? What's your type, man?
You know, Probably mocha or coffee.
Okay.
I mean, I love chocolate. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. But, I just as soon probably have something that isn't quite as on the nose as chocolate ice cream.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm also the age I'm at now, I can get too, I think you can hit a limit of chocolate and sugar. But I still find, like, if I had one ice cream to get, if I really had a choice, if somebody says you get one ice cream, I'd probably get coffee or mocha.
Good. Sounds good. All right. Let's talk to you about The Grinch. Again, you worked with your brother in Apollo 13. You've done, I mean, you were like what in like I think over 17 films of Ron Howard's. Now, The Grinch has become iconic. It's a Christmas classic. How did you become involved in The Grinch? Was it always planned that way to appear in Ron's film?
Well, we had been on a nice run of working together. I mean, Ron loves me, and also Ron trusts me.
Yep.
I earned those stripes because, as a director, he's the guy in charge. It's his ass on the line. If he miscasts, so miscasting can stand out like a sore thumb. And there's been plenty of roles. First of all, I haven't been in every movie.
Mhm.
Um, I think the first movie, well, Willow, I wasn't in Willow, but then I'd work because he shot that in New Zealand and it was just complicated and it was a lot of little people and there was no role for me.
Mhm.
But the first movie that I really wanted to be in, that he didn't think there was a spot for me, was Ransom. I
Okay.
thought with all the detectives and all the cops, I thought there's got to be a spot for me in that movie. And he just didn't see it. And again, I whined in my head for a few minutes about it. But listen, he loves me and he's the chief and I'm an Indian and it's his decision. And I won't hold him against it. I won't hold it against him for too long. You know, uh there there was there was a movie called The Paper that he made, and there was a role I really wanted to do. I read the script and I thought this guy, I could play this guy. And Ron agreed, but he just didn't want to go that direction. He didn't want to have me in that spot. He wanted to have, because one thing that Ron identified a long time ago is that when I show up in one of his movies, in a screening room, there is an audible response. The audience lets out an audible response when the director's little brother ends up on screen. And Ron's a filmmaker. He's telling a story. He doesn't want to screw his story up by having me in the movie.
Like a almost like a distraction.
So yeah. But listen, I was in Far and Away, and that was one of Ron's first big movies. And that was a great experience. But working on the Grinch was fun. And the role of the mayor's assistant was not really in the script. The mayor in the original first draft of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the mayor was the mayor, but there was no assistant. They were just planning on using an extra, using a silent. There was no dialogue. And I read the script, and I really didn't want to just be a who.
Mhm.
And I'll give you a little selfish reason for that. I didn't want to be selfish. I didn't want to be a who because I knew it was going to be one of those movies that they would bring all the who's in together.
Mhm.
They would bring, if you were one of the who's, Jesus, there was going to be a lot of days of just standing around. And I thought, man, the mayor, because the mayor's assistant was indicated in the script, but he didn't have any dialogue. And
Mhm.
I suggested to Ron, I said, the mayor really should have a little sycophant. The mayor should have a character. He's a really kiss-ass
Yeah.
guy and he's a yes man. The mayor should have a guy he can boss around, and who likes to nod. Yeah, 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 you're right, Mr. Mayor. You're right. Oh, yeah, you're right. And everybody, the writers and everybody thought that was a really good idea. So they invented this character of hubris.
Nice.
And, Ron signed me up.
Nice.
And also like, okay, we'll talk about the Grinch,
Okay.
but Apollo 13,
Mhm.
it was, obviously there were dozens of actors just my age.
Mhm.
Ron right away knew that, yeah, I look just like one of those NASA guys,
Mhm.
one of those guys that worked in the Mocher. And so, I read the script and Ron goes, well, what do you think, Clint? And I said, I want to be this Ecom White character for one simple reason. Ron shoots a lot. And there's a really good chance if you don't pick your role right, you're
Mhm.
going to end up on the cutting room floor, you
Okay.
know? And the character of Cy Liebergott, he was involved in the critical point in the film
Yep.
when the frigging O2 tank blew up, and all of a sudden, Houston, we
Yeah.
have a problem, you know? I'm right in the middle of that scene. It's Ecom White. That
You
was the
can't take me
originally,
out. You can't take me
Ecom.
out of that one.
You can't, there's no way. I would have had to have been really, really horrible for them to have to edit me out. And as it turned out, listen, Ron directed his ass off in that movie, and my acting partners,
You
Ed
knocked it out of the
Harris.
park.
I thank you. I had such a great time working on that movie. People ask me what's my favorite movie, and I would say every time Apollo 13. I was a fan of the space program. Shoot, to this day, I still read, there's a book called Lost Moon that Jim Lovell, rest in peace, wrote, and it was talking about the Apollo 13 mission. Jeffrey Kluger, who wrote a lot of space books, he wrote another book about Apollo 8, and Apollo 8 was the mission that first sent man out of Earth's atmosphere. Before
No.
we were sending them into
Yeah.
space, but we were doing orbits around the Earth, and they decided that, well, we're planning on going to the moon. We need to send somebody there. So they spun around Earth a few times and then went to the moon, and and Jim Lovell was a part of that mission too.
No.
So anyway, I love the space program, but the Grinch was great. I didn't mind the makeup. Of
You
course,
said it took what, three
I
hours?
live, yeah, but I live about 7 minutes from Universal Studios.
Okay.
So at 3 o'clock in the morning, it was no big deal for me to get up, roll out of bed, have a cup of coffee, go to Universal, sit in a makeup chair, and they paid.
Oh,
It was
they shot it there?
they shot it all at Universal. I don't think they went anywhere else. It was all on sound stages, all at Universal.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, it was a magical experience. The sets. And at the end of the movie, I mean, Ron knew certainly, Ron really knows the business. But he came up to me as we were just about finishing, and he said to me, I just want you to know there will probably never be a movie made like this again, because very little of it was CGI. I mean, there was CGI in the movie, but we literally had dozens and dozens of people dressed up as Who's every day.
Wow.
There was a sound stage at Universal that was dedicated to makeup and hair. They probably had 30 to 40 makeup men and women and hairstylists in this sound stage making us up every day. Yeah. And I'll tell you, here's a little sidelight, especially for horror fans. Christian Tinsley, who's gone ahead and had a Hall of Fame, Academy Award-winning career, who recently helped create the makeup for Terrifier 3. He was my makeup man on The Grinch. When he was about 25 years old, Kristen
Wow.
Kinsley got hired to be my personal makeup man, because all the principal actors on The Grinch had their own makeup man
Wow.
or woman, you know. And
Small
the
world, huh?
yeah, it was Small World. Well, listen, a prolific guy. And Phil Falcone and Damien Leone, the two main producers of Terrifier, they went after the best. They knew that Terrifier 3 could go through the roof, which it ended up doing.
I mean, yeah, it shows that movie itself with all.
Oh,
I
the
mean,
Terrifier 3, the success of Terrifier 3 couldn't have happened to better people. Phil Falcone, the producer, Damien Leone, the creative mind and the producer, David Howard Thornton, the guy that plays Art, up and down. These are all just championship people. And I was so grateful to be a part of that.
yeah.
And they're gonna make more. Also, I guess the Universal, what do they call it? Horror nights, the
Yep.
Halloween Horror Nights.
Yep.
They're having a Terrifier maze. So, and I
It
heard a
took too long.
rumor,
Should have
I heard
been.
a rumor that the fundamental part of the Terrifier maze is going to be the bar scene that I was in. So,
That's
that
awesome.
that'll be fun. So
Yeah.
anyway, Christian Tinsley was my makeup guy. Uh, it was the sound stage for the Grinch was kept at about 50 degrees, because we were all wearing such heavy makeup and
Mhm.
such heavy suits, costumes, especially Jim, that if the sound stage would have been any warmer, we would have started sweating. And with the makeup on, you couldn't sweat. So the crew all had to wear parkas.
Oh
For the
wow.
crew, it was like being up in the mountains. and gloves and parkas and scarves and knit caps. And we're just standing around in our makeup enjoying ourselves.
Now, what was it like working with Jim Carrey on set, especially when he was in full Grinch mode?
Well, Jim, first of all, Jim is brilliant. There's no, I mean, listen, I've been around a long time. I've never seen anybody come close to doing what Jim did. Uh, he's very inventive and he improvises things, but nothing was improvised. Everything you see, he had invented and worked out and integrated into his character. He would spend a lot of time rehearsing his hand movements and rehearsing his walk and understanding that this character when he was going to be fully realized what it was going to look like. You know, him and Ron did a wonderful job. Jim, especially because when we started rehearsing, it was the middle of summer. It was either late July or early August. And we spent a couple of weeks in a rehearsal space at Universal Studios. And Jim, the first day, showed up in Bermuda pants, Bermuda shorts, and a Hawaiian shirt or a t-shirt. And here he is, he's doing the Grinch and he's doing all these big broad movements and everything. And after the day of rehearsal, I went up to Ron. I go, Ron, don't you think that's a little big? Don't you think, it's like this is not children's theater,
Mhm.
And Ron goes, yeah.
It's his head on the couch.
Oh, a little show and tell. He was eating an ice cream.
I was. I
So,
was.
and I said,
I
I
get
got something for you. And the thing about Jim is
Very still to me.
he was so inventive and so open, and it was really, really fun to be around. Now, granted, he spent 4 hours a day in a makeup chair,
Good Lord.
and when he was done with makeup, they dropped. What they would do is they would get us ready, and they
Mhm.
would start shooting stuff with who's. And when Jim was ready to work, they stopped what they were doing and then go and work on Grinch stuff. You
Gotcha.
know,
Just enough.
and it was I'm again one of those things like Apollo 13 in its own way. I'm so proud and grateful to have been a part of that movie.
Gotcha. Now, before I let you go, I just got three more questions and then I get you out because I know your wife wants you, the dogs want you, the ice cream's out there, man. You worked almost every genre. Do you have a personal favorite?
Yes, I do, Alex. I have a personal favorite. It's comedy.
It's comedy. That's your
Nothing is more fulfilling than making people laugh. Nothing is more fulfilling than when you've got material and you understand it, and then my approach to the material creates laughter or just a smile, a response,
yeah.
and it's immediate. It's immediate. And then the fun thing is when you're filming a comedy, the crew can't laugh.
So it's
And the performers know that. The performers know because in rehearsal people laugh. But then when you're rolling, they're not laughing. So it's kind of, when people can't laugh, that's when you want to make them laugh
I'm not gonna laugh
more.
the most. So like movies like the Water Boy, Little Nicky, keep rubbing your nipples, and you're just there, like just that scene alone. Like, was that last minute? Was that, hey, we want you? Like, how'd you get that part of being the guy who rubs his nipples? It's such a great scene.
Well, actually, it was a few months before Adam Sandler and I were in a bar and
Uh-huh.
we were having a little private moment. And he goes, oh, you'd be really good at that. I've got an idea. No, teasing. I'd worked on Waterboy.
Yep.
I'd worked on Waterboy and he had a really good time with me and he felt like I fulfilled what he needed,
Hmm.
which he's basically the boss. He's at the tip of the spear of those movies,
Hmm.
the Happy Madison movies.
Yeah.
He has directors and he has writers, but he's at the tip of the spear.
Hmm.
And so I worked on Waterboy, and then afterwards they were gearing up to do Little Nicky, and they just had a good time working with me. And they thought of this role of this kind of weird cross-dressing student, and just a couple of little simple scenes, and one thing leads to another. And now here's an example. I only worked on Waterboy, I think, for 3 days.
Okay.
Uh, I worked on Little Nicky for probably 5 weeks. And it
Really?
was, yeah, and it was wonderful because I got paid. I worked, they kept me around for a lot of stuff. There was probably at least 2 weeks when they were shooting the big scene with Ozzy Osbourne
Metro Park or whatever.
at the park that they had me and they just didn't use me. They would some days I would go to the set and they go, we're not going to be able to get to you. You can go home. Or I would get to the set and they would say, the chances of us using you tonight are really slim. Why don't you go home and we'll call you by 10 o'clock tonight? Because they were shooting all night.
Hmm.
You know, if we don't call you by midnight, we're not going to use you. And then finally they used me, and the scene, I'll tell you what, Alex, that scene when I did the nipple rubbing, Valerie Rand. Oh, 2 floors up, 2 windows over. Good luck with the nipple rubbing. I don't need luck. I'm good. I'm sure we did more than one take, but no, more than one take was not necessary because for whatever reason, I mean, I am not that guy, but for whatever reason, I hit that line, I hit that joke, and they put it on a tee for me, and I smacked it out of the park.
You
Now,
did.
you want to know a little anecdotal trivia on Little Nicky? There's that scene where I'm pouring wax on myself. Well, the stuntman, the not the stuntman, the prop man comes up to me. And I'd done the main scene. I'd done the main scene. They need to do this shot of me pouring wax. Oh, 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 and everything's going great, right? And the prop man comes up to me and goes, sorry, but I looked. They don't have fake wax. I couldn't find any show business wax. This is just wax. And I have a pretty hairy chest. I have a hairy
Not
chest.
too bad.
Well, try getting wax out of your
Oh
hairy
no.
chest with
Oh,
no, the prop man handed me a little bottle of, rubbing alcohol and said, I think this might help. And for frigging a couple of weeks, I was picking pieces of wax out of my skin. So, I guess I took one for the team.
there you go. You definitely did. Again, even if there were the tiniest part, like it's crazy how much of an impact you have on such a small little role, but it's just the cherry on top that makes that. I mean, it was great. Little Nicky was great. Like I said, I love the Water Boy. It was best, you know. You owe me $50. You know?
Yeah.
Classic, classic.
Well, thank you, Alex.
But you know what? I want to before I let you go, I wanted to say, Clint, it's been an honor to have you on. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the movies you've done, the television, everything you've done in your career is been amazing. Like I said, a big fan, and you always have a fan in me, and everyone around the world loves you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Uh I do appreciate it a lot, man.
Well, thank you very much, man. And look for another ice cream man.
I mean, hey, like I said, your wife has my number. If you need someone, just give me maybe a week so I can put in the days off, and I'll fly wherever you are. If you're in California, wherever, I'm in Texas. I'll go over there, man. Commitment.
Okay.
All right,
Okay. You're committed.
there you go. But I
Okay, man.
appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.